Borderlands, pre-sequel, Linux, SteamOS, bam. There's been plenty of reviews of the game all over the internet, so I'm not gonna get into how good the game is. We already know how good the game is. I'm just gonna give a quick explanation of what the game is and should you buy it for Linux. The game is made by 2K or 2K Australia, I believe, and the game was ported by Aspire Media. So what the game is it's an RPG or role-playing game, and what you do is RPG type stuff. So if you're familiar with RPGs, basically with an RPG, you level up a character, you collect items, you gear them up, and so on and so on. And this game does exactly that, but with the Borderlands twist. So you level up your character, and you put points into a similar tree, just like World of Warcraft or a game like that, and you collect guns, lots of guns. It has a unique, or different, not unique, but probably more just different art style that I think that will allow the game to age very, very well. And the gameplay is great. The story is very good. There's not much to complain about this game. If I had to make any complaints about this game, it would be that this game is pretty much a reskin of Borderlands 2. It's not much different. It's Borderlands 2 with 4 different characters, with the same skill set more or less, but different animations and low gravity. Which to me, that part, the low gravity portion of the game, is a bit annoying. I found movement I don't know if it's actually any slower than the previous games, but it felt slower because of the floatiness of it. And if you played RPG games, then you know that part of RPGs is grinding. So like you're just basically out there killing things for the sake of killing things, doing repetitive quests, and for the goal of just leveling up. So when you want to grind things out, you want to move as fast as possible. I felt like the game has a feeling of moving a bit slower than the previous games. So that if I had to complain about something, it would be that right there. Other than that, there's not much to complain about. Does it work on Linux? Yes, it works on Linux. It works very well on Linux, and with a decent gaming setup, or even a moderate gaming setup, you should be able to achieve pretty reasonable frame rates, 60 FPS. Lock it in, 1080p, and bam, off you go. You shouldn't have too many issues. If you have a little bit of issues, they have a string that you can put into Steam for threaded optimization, and that should boost your frames per second up quite a bit. I've noticed with that string, you can get probably about 20 frames per second more. There is a couple of like little nagging issues, like whenever you go through a door, like certain doorways, they're not even different levels. It's just like certain doorways, you get this pause, like it's loading something else, but I don't know what that is. And it has some jitter to it. Yeah, so it has some jitter to it, just little minute nagging things, but that might be because of the port from DirectX to OpenGL. So I can overlook some of those things and get on with my life. Is the game worth buying for Linux? Yeah, definitely. Now, if you take the library of Linux games and then narrow that down to the AAA titles, the big name, oh my God, Hollywood titles, the list of games for Linux or SteamOS gets pretty small rather quickly. I mean, you have other games like Civilization 5, Civilization Beyond Earth, Metro Last Light, and Metro 2033 Redux, XCOM. There's several games out there that you can play that's of the AAA status, so to say. And this would be one of those games. Borderlands 2, if you didn't know, is also on Linux. Borderlands, the pre-sequel, stands alone in those list of titles. Like I said before, it is a very unique type of game, as it takes first-person shooter and marries it with RPG elements. And it is a co-op game also, so you can take 1 to 3 other friends, and so up to 4 people, and play through the game together, and which Makes it really fun that way. But I will say, I believe that it is as fun in single player as it is in co-op. Good thing about this game is there is no distinction really between single player and co-op. So, you know, if you start a mission on your own, you start playing, you get to level, I don't know, 20, and then your friend's like, man, let me hop on, I have a level 20 also. There's no breakage in the storyline and how things work out. But back to if it's worth it on Linux. Now, like I said before, 2K Australia made this game. It was ported by Aspire Media. These guys did Borderlands 2 also, and they did an excellent job on that game. And once again, they did a super excellent job on this game. The game looks nearly identical to the Windows counterpart, which is no small feat, considering the amount of technical hurdles that exist there, besides the fundamental difference that is using completely different graphics APIs. Now, I will say there is one caveat. There is a considerable and noticeable difference in two things. One being that there's a very small subset of graphical options that are not in the Linux version. And probably the most noticeable one would probably be PhysX. So yeah, PhysX is not in the Linux version. And then you'll notice that there is a, if you took the two side by side, which I have done, I have played it on both platforms, you will notice that there is a performance difference, with Linux having a very noticeable lower performance difference than the Linux version. For example, if it runs at 80 frames per second on Linux, you're probably getting about 110, 120-ish on Windows. That may or may not be of importance to you. So if you're the type of person that says, I just want to have a great experience, well then yeah, 80 frames per second is more than enough frames per second, since you probably have a 60 hertz monitor and lock it in at 60 frames per second, and bam, you have a superb, phenomenal experience. If you're the type of person who wants to have the most performance out of their system, or you have a 120 hertz, 144 hertz monitor and you want to lock it into that, I just don't see that happening on the Linux version. I think for the majority of the people out there, I don't think that's an issue. That would not be an issue. I would like to see in future releases of the SteamOS Linux ports that they resolve that type of issue, because it's kind of across the board except for the Valve specific or source engine titles. So hopefully they can resolve that issue, you know, get PhysX into the Linux versions of games. But we have to give credit where credit is due. Aspire did a super job on the port of this game. If you played it on one, then played it on the other, I would be willing to bet that you could not discern the difference between the two. The only time you would be able to do that is if the Linux version had some dips in performance and went below 60 frames per second. The likelihood of you dipping below 60 is a bit more on the Linux version. But that's up to you. Some people don't care. Some people do. But the game plays great, except for the little nagging points that I've already mentioned. It's just a phenomenal port. It's an excellent game. It's worth buying on Linux or SteamOS, whichever one you want to call it. But it is such an excellent, fun game. It's the type of game that you can pour hours into and not even know it, which to me, those are one of the factors that would make up an excellent game. It's the type of game that you can go back to months later and just start over or continue and have many more hours of idle fun. There's not much technically wrong with this game. There's not much wrong to complain about as far as the playability of the game. Controller support is there and functioning right out the box. The graphics they look good. The audio is very immersive. The soundtrack is awesome. The sound effects are great. Even the idle chatter from the characters that you get when you're doing different activities is it's hilarious. Like, some of the stuff is just literally laugh out loud funny. It retains that Borderlands humor. If you're familiar with the other Borderlands, that same Borderlands humor is there, and it's pretty funny. I will say that this game is a bit shorter than the first two games, but it still retains that replay value. I'll have to also mention that if you are on Linux or you're on Windows and you just want to support the Linux version, what you should do is go to Game Agent and which is Aspire Media's store outlet, and buy the Linux version, and then play it on Linux first, because that way that the Aspire Media guys receive the proceeds for that port. Because if you enjoy the Linux port, Aspire Media is the one who did the port. So you should show your support for not only 2K Australia, but for the guys who actually did the port. That's just a little side note. But if you could also buy it on Steam, if like there's some super ridiculous sale, as we all know that always happens, you can buy it on Steam, but make sure that you load it and play it in Linux within, I think it's 7 days. I think that's how that works out. And that way Aspire Media gets credit for that also. I cannot state enough that if you're not a first-person shooter person or you're not an RPG person, I would still not discount this game. This game is overall just fun, and that's why we play games. This game is a game that you should add to your library and try for at least 10-20 hours. Now, and I bet if you do that, you'll put another 20 hours into it. That's my review of Borderlands, the pre-sequel for Linux. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this was useful. It is super late, but who cares? That does not mean that you cannot go and still support your favorite developers, your favorite publishers, your favorite platform. So go out there, do that, vote with your wallets. Go sign the PC pen, and I'm out.